Welcome to Chatting with the Comic Community, episode 11. I am TM. I am so happy to have this guest that I have backstage right now on with me today. I've spent so much time just being a super fan of his. Now we become close. We become sort of friends. And that I'm still a huge fan of his. I started off as just a blip watching him, and now I have the honor to sit down and chat with him. I want everybody out there to give this guy the heartiest of stations, and I want to hear you scream the station for Rocking Robbie.
Very nice. Station. Thank you for those kind words, Travis. And if we're close, we might as well be friends. That was odd that you said we have gotten close, but almost friends. That was weird, but I know. I remember.
I didn't want to overstep my boundaries.
It was just one night. We were both drinking. Whatever. It happens. How are you doing? I'm excited to be here, bro.
I'm super excited to have you. I usually ask all my guests to tell a little bit about themselves to those of people who are watching. Sorry, I'm already screwing up my words, but yeah, I'm just going to give you the floor.
Words are meant to be screwed up, I would say, TM nerdy. What was the question? Who am I? I'm Rocking Robbie Billz. I am the main producer and co-founder of Pop Culture Philosophers. We host the weekly comic book review. It's our flagship show. I do the weekly pop culture wrap-up. We got PCP movie night. We also have a podcast. We started as a podcast. Me and my friends, the excitable PCP crew, we like to get together and talk about pop culture. We like to be positive, insightful, and hopefully entertaining. And we like to grow a community of like-minded individuals that also are a little bit, mischievous and tricksters. We're all kind of always having fun with each other, and we commit to the bits and everything like that. So we're just trying to have a community that's strong and positive and about pop culture. Not saying that we're not critical, because we are. In fact, just check out Brooks's last review on Cobra, which is one of my favorite movies, which he gave 1. You dig. But we're all about having fun, and that's what I do. I also am the store manager of a comic book shop here in my home state of Alabama. So comic books and movies, all that stuff's always been a big positive love of mine. So I'm just excited to share it with as many people as I can on the airwaves, as the kids say.
So I usually start off by asking how you got into collecting, but I really want to dive in deep. You did say that you started off as a podcast. I want to talk a little bit about that. How long ago was that, and what was the transition like switching from podcast to YouTube? Okay,
so officially we will have been podcasting together, me and the core group, which makes the excitable PCP crew, the inner circle, if you will, which is like me and John and Mike and Justin and Drew. We've been podcasting together, me and Mike, because we were the first ones in that original era. Justin and John and Drew joined us a little bit down the road, but next year marks 10 years. So it was 2012 when we started podcasting, and that was 2 podcasts we had, the Smile or Else show, and that was that's kind of what Pop Culture Philosophers came from. That was a show where we would pick a topic. Mostly it was always about movies. And we'd be at the end, we would end it with a top 5, basically. If we were doing Westerns, it was top 5 Westerns. If we were doing Quentin Tarantino movies, top 5 Tarantino movies. And then I did a show called Rocking with Rocking Robbie Live, which was actually a throwback to this. Back in elementary school, middle school, and high school, I used to get my friends together on Friday or Saturday nights, and we would get a tape recorder, right? And we would film a radio show. And then eventually in high school, I started recording a top 10 music countdown. So, because I had a pretty impressive CD collection at the time, for a 15-year-old. But and so we would do this countdown. People would vote, and we would do these funny little bits, and we would rip off and people like Adam Sandler or the Jerky Boys and things like that. And so I would actually pass that around the school, and it became kind of popular. And I started doing this little comic book, which is called the Lehigh Chronicles, which was me and my friends in this weird zany world that I created. I still have some of those. They didn't age very well, I would say. But so this kind of jam has always been what I wanted to do. And then in 2015, I almost died. So I had a near-death experience that kind of put some things in a new perspective for me and changed my ideas about certain things. And it fulfilled me with this sense of trying to find my purpose. And I went back to doing the stuff I love, which is talking about what I love and trying to do what I love. So that is the moment where I told John I want to do YouTube and we switched over to Pop Culture Philosophers. I wanted to rebrand. I wanted to start fresh, start new, do YouTube and do the podcast. He would handle more of the podcast and the website, and I would handle the YouTube. And we did that for a while, and eventually trickled into the idea of maybe somebody would like to hear what I think about comics, because comics are one of my favorite things, and I've loved them since I was like 5 years old, even before when I didn't even know what they were. I just loved the characters and everything like that. So that's pretty much all of it in a shaken up nutshell.
That's amazing, because I didn't know. I always thought you talked about comics and that. I didn't know that came in later on.
Well, I didn't think anybody would want to hear about comics. You know, you're like, comics is a small market compared to like movies. But the idea, though, which I wasn't even thinking about, is that there were a lot of people doing things about movies, right? Movie reviews and stuff. There are people that do it way better than we do. That's why we try to do it with this live hangout format, because we think that's a little bit different. But like, that's a hard world to break into. And now comics is bigger, but back then it wasn't. So like, nobody was really doing, in my opinion, at that time, in-depth weekly reviews on like almost all of the titles. Like, people would go down a list and tell you what was coming out. But even most people's opinions, I just, to be honest, don't really like or agree with at the time. And so I just was like, you know what? I want something I could do every single week. Right. And I made a commitment. I was like, I'm going to do a show every week, because, you know, you do a video here and there, but it's about a schedule. If you do something regularly, it has a better chance to catch on, I guess. But I want to do something once a week, and that's what it was. And that was almost 5 years ago when we started that. That's going to be 5 years in October, and haven't missed a beat yet. Haven't missed a week. Always gave my pick of the week, and it's been a fun ride ever since that.
And you probably, in my opinion, give like the best reviews out there. Like, you don't just tell people like they should pick this book up. You give a good detailed description of what the book's about and that, and it gives the viewers the chance to like decide, that does sound interesting to me. I'll pick that up.
Well, you know, my day job is selling comics, right? So I was able to eventually get and if I wasn't, over the last 20 years of my life, if I wasn't working at a comic shop, I was working at a video store or a movie theater, pretty much, right? So the idea of trying to encapsulate something and give somebody a recommendation without spoiling what's going on. And I have a genuine excitement for this shit. Like, I love movies. I love comics. Like, going to the comic shop is a different experience for me nowadays, because I'm so, you know, I'm behind the counter all the time. But like, I love going and reading and finding comics, and I love going to the movie theater. Is like some of my favorite stuff. So I get excited about it. That excitement I hear translates through. I think I just babble on and ramble. And, but you know, yeah, that's what there's some people just tell you what the book is. They're like, this is what happened in the book. That's my review. I learned very early on, that's not what a book review was. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I had to read, you know, Where the Red Fern Grows, I had to like explain how it was about grief and loss and things like that. So, and that's what I like. I like comics. I like the silly, you know, superhero stuff that's just ridiculous, and the old school stuff. But I, for the most part, really appreciate comics, I think, out of everything else. The superhero idea, the superhero fascination is a separate thing from the fascination with the medium. Like, comic books are an amazing way to tell a story. And I strongly state this. People say it's a golden age for television and movies, or not for movies. Nobody says that. Like, we just had the 9th Fast and Furious movie, 10th actually, if you kind of whatever, right? But we like the originality and creative ideas and innovation and storytelling in comics today is unmatched by any other form of media, in my opinion. So, comics are the GOAT.
But let's step back a little bit to the time that you were recording music. Like, how did that all become?
Well, I like music, and so I always wanted to be a musician as well. I just always wanted to perform on some kind of thing. You know, I wanted to be a pop star, a rock star. But one thing I was always able to do from an early age when I was like 8, 9, 10, it was like Kid and Play, Fresh Prince, TLC, Salt and Pepper. And then when I got into middle schools, when I discovered, Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Cypress Hill, and then eventually Bone Thugs and Outkast and on and on and on. So I've always had a love for hip hop, music of all kinds, actually. But I learned very early on in my life, like at 5th grade, I would say, that I could rap. And to be honest, man, it seems weird, but it doesn't seem like a lot of white people at the time could rap. And so the idea that I could was something people really liked. And so I would just start writing songs, and I always wanted to do it. Always some ideas. I've always wanted to be I always wanted to front a punk band, or I always wanted to play synthesizer in like a Cure cover band, things like that. But I also want to be the front man of a band, but I can't really sing. I don't think, not good enough for that, but I can flow, and I think I can write some decent stuff. So eventually I met a dude named Kevin. His stage name was Skeptic. Mine was Contact. We formed a group called The Basement Show. We did a bunch of house parties, garage shows, things like that. Over the course of about 3 years, recorded some EPs and one full-length album, and then life got in the way and we split. And still something I've always liked to go back to because I love writing and composing music. I would love to do movie scores too. Like there's so much to do in this world, so many cereals to eat, so many comics to read, so many movies to watch, and so many songs to write. So much to do in this world, right?
And so little time. Like, question: did that album ever get released, or is there a way that people can get their hands on that album?
Yeah, you can download it for free on Reverb Nation, I believe. Just type in The Basement Show. That's with a THA, The Basement Show. You can find our album greenlit, and you can download it there. We're also on I think we're on SoundCloud. Yeah, I think we're on Facebook. We're not active. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, you can still find it out there. It's online. There's even some songs on the Pop Culture Philosophers YouTube channel. If you actually search for The Basement Show, you'll find them.
All right, let's get to the nerd part of the show. I know you're a huge toy collector. Like, where did that start? And like, what was your first like full collection?
First full collection. My first full collection was probably X-Men Series 1. And then I collected each and every single series of the X-Men, the Toy Biz line, for like years and years and years. Like I got every single freaking one. I remember it took a long time, but I eventually got a Rogue. Like I remember all that stuff. Toy collecting started just as a kid. I always loved superheroes. I would watch Super Friends reruns, and I would watch the Galactic Guardians that had Darkseid in it. And I thought Darkseid against Superman and Aquaman, all those were so BA. And then the Superpowers action figure line was out, and so was the Secret Wars. And so they were two really good toy lines that were superhero comic book related. And I was fascinated with Spider-Man and the X-Men and Fantastic Four and Batman and Aquaman and Superman, the Justice League, all of that stuff. And so I had a lot of those toys. The Batmobile, the Darkseid Destroyer. I had a lot of Secret Wars toys, which I've been trying to slowly get some of those off. I've been getting my superpowers back too. There's some right there. But I never had the full lines. First full line was probably the X-Men stuff. That's when I got into it. That's when I'm like mowing grass and stuff at like 10, 11 years old. This is in the Liefeld McFarlane days. You know what I'm saying? Like this is the Jim Lee era. This is that extreme 90s era. I was like 10, 11. That was like the perfect age for that shit, right? And yeah, I've always loved toys. Masters of the Universe. That's something I've kind of reignited in myself as my main passion. Also, I got real bit by the Power Rangers toy bug. I was like probably like 12, 13 when Power Rangers came out, but like I really liked it. I thought it was cool, and I really liked the toys. And then not too long ago, I started going back, and as you know, I got a lot of Power Ranger toys. I've actually been slowly siphoning them off. I've been selling off a lot of my modern stuff. And right now I'm getting down to the point where all I will have is vintage. And then eventually I may even cut some of that because my focus right now is on Masters of the Universe. And the only modern toys I like to collect now, because I've recently kind of given it all up on modern toys for the most part. I like picking up pieces here and there, but it's become so hard to be a toy collector of modern toys, and they keep raising those prices. But I am really liking what Transformers is doing, and I can be a bit more choosy with those. don't feel like I have to get the whole line. But it all started in the 80s, mostly with Superpowers and Secret Wars and Masters of the Universe. When I really got into like the habit of having to get them all was Toy Biz, the X-Men line in particular that went along with the animated series, and then into Power Rangers. And then now today, just whatever tickles my fancy.
So you've gone on and on about it, like how you've had so many Power Ranger toys, like in past videos and that, but you've been so vague with it. Like, how many do you actually have or had?
I have no idea. So, I mean, like Zord wise, I have all of the Mighty Morphin Zords, some multiples of some. Like I got 2 Dragon Zords, I got 3 Tiger Zords. I got 2 Red Dragon Zords, I got 2 Thunder Zord assault teams. So it's the first season, I got all of them. The second season, I got all of them, including Tor. The third season, I've got all of them. That's the Ninja season, the Shogun season. I almost have all of the Zeo Zords, but I'm missing the first actual Zeo Megazord. I got one that I can get, but I don't even know if I'm going to keep my Zeos at this point. But I have a lot of Zords. I have every Zord from Power Ranger Samurai. I have everyone from what I would call Gokaiger, but it's Megaforce or Super Megaforce or some shit like that. I have the Ghost Ager stuff. I'm more into the Sentai now, and I really like the Japanese toys over the American toys. Now that Hasbro has the license, they haven't made a great Zord to save their lives. So I'm done with the Zords for the most part, but like every time I watch a Super Sentai, I'll go get, like if I'm watching Shinkager, I will go get my Power Ranger Samurai stuff and start like playing around with it. And I even have the Japanese version of the Samurai Megazord. So I mean, I got a lot of Zords. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. I don't know. I probably got like 30, 40 Zords. And then I've got like, remember all the flip heads? I got all those. You remember, well, not all those. I don't have the really rare ones. Like, I don't have an Adam and I don't have an Aisha. I do have a Rocky, and I don't have the White Ranger Tommy. Like that's a get for a Power Ranger fan. Let me tell you that. But all the original wave, like the tall ones, like I have those, the Karate Kick ones, I have those, all the little micro machines, all the little pogs. I mean, like, it's just, I got like 2 cartons in there of just random Power Ranger figures and all kinds of stuff. And then I probably got, like I said, like 30 to 40, probably like 40 Zords or so. It's massive. And then I was getting all the Lightning collections, but those have been trickling out. I bought in every Legacy Zord that came out for the most part, but those eventually I sell. Even my Dragon Dagger I sold because they want it worth money, and it's like, what is it really here for? I'd rather get a Snake Mountain and a Gray Skull right now. I think I have satisfied my Power Rangers itch, but I do have a lot, and I do want to do something where maybe I show a bunch before I finally let some of them go. But right now, I haven't sold off anything vintage yet. That's not a duplicate. I sold off my Megazord in box. And I got a good, like the original Megazord. And I needed it because the wing is broken on my other pterodactyl. But you know what? When it's in Megazord mode, you can't see that broken wing.
So it's a safe bet to say that you're a huge Power Rangers fan.
Yeah, I definitely used to be, for sure.
And that you've been reading the comics as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I still keep up with the comics. I think the comics are exploring the mythology and the lore of it better and way deeper than the show ever did. And it's the best interpretation of that mythology. And I think it's actually the best interpretation of those characters. And I think the Ryan Parrott stuff is actually stronger than the Kyle Higgins stuff, which I thought was great too. But they do kind of tend to meander around too long and keep one story going maybe too long. Like Shattered Grid was cool, but it was too long. And now where we're at with the Empirical is going on too long. I kind of miss comics the way they used to be when they just told so many stories so quickly.
So going back to, you said you collect Motu, the Masters of the Universe. Are you planning on collecting any of the figures from the Kevin Smith line?
No, sir. I'm vintage only when it comes to Motu. I only go after the original stuff. So that's hard enough, and focusing on that, keeping up with modern toys. Like it would be cool. Like the Origins line, I think it's neat. I actually have some personal preferences where I don't really like the Origins line so much because they just look so cartoonish almost in a way. But it's also because I grew up with these figures, right? But it's a good call for me just to go vintage only with those, because that, first of all, will take up enough space and definitely cost enough money, and actually probably easier just to save up $200, buy a vintage Motu that's rare, than to try to spend $200 over the course of 4 months hunting down the latest exclusives. You know what I'm saying? So
I got a two-part question here. First, do you play video games? And two, why not?
Well, number one, I do play video games. I guess the second question should be, why do you not play video games pre 1997? I just don't have time for it. I can play Mario. I can invest in playing Mario 3 again and just get so much enjoyment and nostalgia. It's the same reason why I eat cereal. It's the same reason why I collect toys. I'm always trying to recapture some of the happiest moments of my childhood, right? And those usually involved these kind of things, and like things like baseball. So like I'm really into all that nostalgia. But I love the old school stuff: Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Genesis, Atari, all of that stuff, all the Sega systems. I mean, all that stuff up to a point, and then I just kind of got out of it. I still like playing video games. I go to the arcades and I'll play the new, cruising racing game, or I like playing fighting games. So when I go over to my buddy John's house, we'll play the latest Street Fighter and things like that. But I don't really keep up with it. And those games where you invest so much time, and I mean, I don't have enough time, and I'm too old now to get pissed off at a damn video game for real, right? And so like the last actual video games I probably played, because I had a PS3 and I really liked the show, the baseball game, and I got so into that. But I would spend so much freaking time on that. I get nothing else done in my life. Like all the productivity of my life went away. I, first of all, don't want to be that person. And I know that I have an inclination to be that kind of person if I'm not careful. And then I was playing games like Arkham Asylum and Force Unleashed and the Ghostbusters game. And you get to parts where like, I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to do, right? I don't even like playing Zelda games because I don't like getting to a game and being like, I don't know what the hell I like to do, what I'm supposed to do. My favorite games are you just go right until it's over. Mario, Mega Man, Sonic, things like that. Fighting games, racing games. So I do like video games. I just really, really prefer and only pretty much for the most part indulge in retro gaming. Because games were better then.
All right. So moving on, I know that you do a monthly show with Bueller, Bob, I think Jem Mint's in there, and Dylan from Dylan's Horror Show. I want to talk a little bit about how that all started.
Yeah, we can do that. That started my whole association with all of those people. So one day, I think it was December of like 2018 or something like that, maybe 2019. I don't remember, but maybe it was October or something, like 2019. Jem Mint reached out and he was like, hey, I got this idea maybe to do like a spoiler show with a bunch of YouTube comic book personalities. And I want you to be a part of it. And so that was the very first time I ever heard. I just got a random text message or a Instagram message from Jem Mint Collectibles. And I was like, oh, I know Jem Mint. He does the statues and the omnibus reviews. That's cool. I was like, yeah, I want to do this. And then that's where I met, that first night I met Bueller. I met Chad from 90MF Comics. I met Matt from The Boy Who Had Seven, and just loved those guys. And Bueller and Jim, and I mean, all of them, I just loved them. Right. And then we did it again, and Dylan showed up, and Dylan was always the kid in the chat, like just talking all the time. And then he showed up, and that was a fun moment. And then Dylan one time asked me to come to his channel, and we just wound up talking about horror movies. And that's what eventually led to Dylan's Horror Show. And, but at a certain point, like we started hitting the holidays, and one thing about Jem Mint is that Jim doesn't like too many like things that he has to do every single week at a certain time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, he's a very, very like hustler mindset. Like He's scheduled. He's very scheduled. He's organized. That's what I'm right. But a commitment to do a show like this every single Saturday night, it's a bit much for a family man. You know what I'm saying? And then we just missed it a couple times, and it just kind of fizzled out. But we all kept in touch, right? And so we were all doing things here and there. And then I was like, you know what? We should do it, but we should do it monthly. And we should just move it from channel to channel. If you can't be there that month, no worries. But don't do it every week. That's too much, right? And Bruce Fargate will always say that it was his idea, but a lot of people wanted the idea. We took the idea. We wanted to do it monthly, and I'm glad to do it because for the most part, the core is me, Dylan, Bob, and Bueller, and then Jim will pop in occasionally, and we have some plans to bring in some new blood, whatnot. But the idea is that we just have this we have formed this friendship. We all love each other so much and respect what each other do. And we love each other's opinions on comics. When Bueller's sitting there yelling at me last month about Department of Truth and how he hates it, like I love that shit. That's passionate conversation amongst friends about our shared love of this medium. And it was all uplifting and it's always in good fun. And Bueller's probably one of my favorite people that I have met since starting this whole thing. I mean, I love so many people. Like, this is a great community. I've met lifelong friends, but me and Bueller, that's the bromance that changed comic book YouTube history. Trust me.
Yeah, it's the best collaborative comic book YouTube channel, like event type thing out there right now. It's like it's spanned over between 4 different channels, flipping channels each month and it just brings everybody closer together. And you always get the same perspective from each person, and it's always not everybody agreeing. Sometimes it's you don't like a book that Bueller likes, or you guys actually sometimes agree, which is freaky.
Sometimes. And another thing I really like is, and I wish Bob had more time to bring it back, is the battle drafts that we would do over at Bob's channel. Those are some of my favorite things too. I love those. I think I'm losing them. You there?
Yeah, I'm cutting in and out. I'm sorry. If you can hear me, I want to touch on a little bit of how you and Dylan decided to create the Dylan's Horror Show. How did that come about?
First of all, it came about because I got tired of Dylan being this brilliant dude who has so many great grand thoughts on comic books, not doing any content. It pissed me off that Dylan wasn't doing any content, right? And he came on and he did Horror Fest with us. And I was like, hey, during Horror Fest, you should do like an after party in your channel. This was last year. I was like, you should do an after party like on Saturday night. We can talk about a topic or a movie or something. And so we did that. And I was like, see, you can do weekly content, Dylan. Just do it as a live show. You love horror. I was like, he was getting more out of the comic stuff. He's still into comics, but he wasn't wanting to keep up with it anymore. He was kind of getting, I mean, I don't want to speak for him, but I think it was getting to him that he wasn't seeing a lot of movement, but it was also because he wasn't able to really do a lot of content, right? The kind of content that you would do for a comic book channel, he just wasn't able to really do with his new schedule. So I was like, bro, let me tell you something. And I was like, you should rebrand. You should be Dylan's Horror Show. I'll co-host with you, to get you started. I'll co-host. We'll do every week, every Saturday night, the Old School Horror Show. We'll just talk about a horror topic or a movie or whatever. And then he's taken that and kind of turned it into his little niche here. And I told him, I was like, there's a market where people that love comic books and love horror. That's where Dylan's Horror Show should be. I personally still want to see him do more comic book content, meaning like I suggested to him that he should do, if not weekly, at least a monthly, the best in horror comics this month. I think that would be really good for him. But I love Dylan so much, and I just want to see him shine. And so I kind of take him under my wing, and it's an excuse for me to kind of keep the Horror Fest vibe going and just stay watching horror. And it's like Halloween every week. You know what I'm saying? Plus, I just get to bullshit with Dylan for an hour and a half to 2 hours every week, which is one of my favorite things to do. I love Dylan.
All right, I just want to say, like, Tomorrow Cinema and you have been friends for a while as well, and he just became a pop culture philosopher. Like, you guys have said, like, it's been 5 years. Like, how did you guys meet?
We met in a YouTube Facebook group. It was a Facebook group called like the group of pure YouTube awesomeness or something like that. And this is back when you're starting out and you're in those days, like there were these groups and most of them were wound up being like sub for sub groups, like come sub to me, I'll go sub to you. Like that's not how you gain any kind of traction. But I found this group that had several people in it that I thought made really good content that was different. And one of the ones that I immediately gravitated was Manuel and what he was doing with his brother with Tomorrow Cinema, because they were talking about movies. I was talking about movies. So I was looking at this as like, this is maybe someone that I could potentially collaborate with. I was also very impressed with his camera skills and editing skills. And at the time, and still today, I do not like editing videos, like whatsoever. I don't like doing it. And then eventually, he had kids. But that's how we met. We met in that group, and he would always comment on the videos. We would share videos and we would critique each other, right? But so I started watching his videos, he started watching mine, and we just found this this little friendship. And then for a while, he kind of dipped away because he had kids and he wasn't really producing a lot of content. And I still follow some people from that group, not many of them, but I still follow a couple of people from that group and think they're making good content. And Manny always impressed me. I love his eye. I love his technical ability. And he's just such a good dude. And I love his opinions on things. And for a long time there, the only content I was getting out of him was this libertarian podcast that he was doing on Facebook every like Thursday night or something. And I would watch that. He probably doesn't know that, but I would watch that. And I was like, man, he's going a whole different direction now. And then he came back and he wanted to bring back Tomorrow Cinema. And I think that what he's done with building up the brand of not just pop culture philosophers, but bringing y'all together as the Bad Batch, and he's an ambassador of positivity and friendship in the entire community. This dude will find you if you're making comic book or pop culture or movie content. He'll find you. And he'll find a way to use whatever spotlight he has to spotlight you. He is truly the PCP ambassador and a member of the PCP crew. Excitable we are.
Station to that.
Station.
So I like to ask all my guests, what kind of cartoons were you like die hard for when you were a child? Like, what couldn't you live without?
Masters of the Universe, Transformers, Superpowers, Galactic Guardians, the Spider-Man show from the 80s, not the Amazing Friends one, but the other one that's just called Spider-Man, X-Men animated series, Spider-Man animated series, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Did I say Masters of the Universe? Did I say Silverhawks? Did I say Thundercats? Yeah, those. Did I say Batman the animated series? Yeah, there you go.
What about Batman Beyond?
I thought Batman Beyond was okay. I like Return of the Joker a lot. I do like that. And I think the first episode's okay, but I don't know. This is the pre-Twitter days, but I guess hashtag not my Batman.
So I know you're a fan of the G1 Transformers and you weren't a fan of the Beast Wars television show cartoon series, but were you a fan of Reboot by chance?
No, I wasn't a fan of any of those weirdly CG animated shows from the 90s. They look so weird to me. I didn't even like it when they did it in the Silver Surfer show. So it took me a long time. This is in the early days where, like, in those days, I would have told you they will never successfully do 3D animation for cartoons. It will always be line drawn. But nope, I was wrong. But I even in animated film and stuff, I prefer the more classic style than to the 3D stuff. But back in the day, that stuff was just very crude. You know what I'm saying? Like it's hard to even rewatch. I tried to rewatch it when it was on Tubi. It's just so, it didn't age well, but a lot of stuff from that era does. Look at the Zords in the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie. Like, what is that? That looks like the Beast Wars Transformer, you know?
you did pick up the Beast Wars book. Did you continue with that or no?
Well, I really liked the first issue. I thought the first issue was super solid, and I was very excited to read issue 2, and I didn't really like it that much. And on the next time that issue 3 came out, it was probably a bigger week, and so I just had to just wave it off. So
yeah, if you're not a big fan of it, like, are you excited at all, or for the movie that's coming out, Transformers: Rise of the Beasts?
Is Michael Bay a part of it?
No.
Oh yeah, I guess so. Sure. I actually got, I think Optimus Primal's badass. I got the new one right there, and I've got the Megatron dinosaur. I haven't opened them yet, but one day I will. I think the concept of it's pretty badass, and I hear that, like, you and Manny have told me that it gets deep, and it does. I've heard good things about it, and I would like to one day delve in. But for me, it was always G1, and honestly, I didn't even make it past the movie back in the day. I didn't even watch that movie until I was like a teenager. Like, I just remember the very early stuff, you know, and not being able to afford Transformer toys as a kid and getting a lot of GoBots. So GoBots are cool too, though.
I actually watched Transformers, the movie, for the first time to get ready for a movie night on your show.
Nice. That was the first time I had seen it in forever, and probably the most enjoyable experience I have had with that film. I love it. I love that film now.
And yeah, Ron Perlman's going to be the voice of Optimus Primal in the Transformers.
And he's been the voice before, right? Was he the voice in the show or one of the shows or something?
I don't.
Or a game or something. He was a voice. He has a history with that version of the character. I'm pretty certain.
If it was in the video game, I don't remember playing the video game, so maybe, possibly.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. I remember seeing it somewhere.
So your love for, like, when you started your podcast and your YouTube channel, it was all about movies and that. Like, what are some of your favorite movies that you've reviewed throughout the years?
Favorite movies we've reviewed? The Bill and Ted trilogy, obviously. There's that. The Shining. We've reviewed The Shining twice. We've reviewed The Thing. I think I almost want to say we've done The Thing 3 freaking times. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just 2. The Friday night that we did, that was good. The Friday and next Friday. Buckaroo Banzai, Josie and the Pussycats. Those are some great ones that we've reviewed. We've reviewed a lot of good movies. We've over the years, over the 6 years, we have a lot of little movie reviews. In the early days, they're really short and we're all drunk as hell. And so they're kind of fun because when we do the podcast, we're all together and we're all drinking. So I think that comes across in the podcast, and we tried to bring that across in the videos, but it was just a little too sloppy. Right. But, I really like the way that we do the movie reviews now, but Spawn was a good one. Street Fighter, Masters of the Universe. I liked it when we did them in studio, but I really like doing them live more because we get to, we're not trying to keep it tight. We're not trying to edit it together, and we get to kind of chillax with everybody. And it's like, me and that crew, we love watching movies and we love hanging out outside of the movie theater and talking about it. It would be great if I could. The ultimate goal would be to set up like a set outside of a movie theater. We all go watch a movie, come out, blah, blah, blah. But then we started focusing more on the classic old school stuff. And we've been focusing on that too. But it's just we wanted to bring that somehow to the community, like hang out with us and talk about the movie. And I think we have fun with it. So those are some of my favorite ones. Now, my favorite movies in general would be Citizen Kane, Dazed and Confused, Blade Runner, 2001: A Space Odyssey, and Suspiria. Those are like probably my top 5 favorite movies right there.
Right on. So like you've been doing like movie reviews for a while, then you added the comic book review, never missed a beat in that. Then you started adding like interviewing writers, artists, creators. How did that all start up?
Well, first of all, I don't actually interview anybody. I just invite people in for conversations. Yeah, that's just a bit. We don't call them interviews. We try to call them conversations. And because I don't want to just be like, because these creators, they go through this stuff all the time. They come into people's live chats and they get asked the same questions, right? And, we ask the same questions too, but I try to find a way in and make it feel free and loose. And what I usually tell people before they come on is think of it more like a Joe Rogan show for comics. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're just going to be hanging out. Drink if you want to, chill, do whatever you need to relax. We'll talk about your work, but I just want to have a conversation. That's why I always start talking about things like aliens or what's your, like, what movies do you like? Or well, that's why Brian likes to talk about music. Like, we like to try to find a way to connect. And once you see it, if you watch an interview, say like with Dan Waters, which we love Dan Waters, and a lot of it is kind of formatted like an interview. We're asking him questions and he's, but we're giving it, we're having a nice conversation. But at the end there, Brian found the end. The end was to talk about literature. And Brian and Dan just went on and on and on. And then after hours backstage, Dan was like, I'll set aside 2 hours for next time because I could talk about this stuff all day. And that's something that we hear from a lot of people. We've brought people back, most notably Joe Corallo. Joe Corallo has become one of my absolute favorite people in this comic book industry. And you definitely all need to go check out Beckstar right now because it's amazing. You can also check more of Joe's stuff over at Comics by Perch, which is a really good, like, informational channel about the industry from all sides. And he has a lot of good input there. I've done 3 Rocking Robbie lives with Joe Corallo. He's been on 2 PCP movie nights, and he was on my birthday stream. So, like, Joe is like one of my favorite people. I've developed friendships with people, Joe and Liana and Michael and Rom V, friend of the show, so, like, it's so fun. And I just always wanted to do it because I just want to talk to these people. I was a little nervous at first. Our first conversation was with Alex Packnadell. I think he's one of the most intellectually brilliant writers in the comic book industry right now. He wrote Friendo. Right now he's writing Giga. And I was kind of nervous, so I asked Brian to join me because I think Brian's a very intellectual reader. Funny thing is, I think Brian's more nervous to talk to these people than I am nowadays. But, like, Brian was supposed to be there to help be my buffer in case I got too nervous. And I really honestly feel like the only one I kind of was like maybe too nervous on was Rom V. I was very giddy on that one. And I pulled it together for Dan Waters, though. Like, I'm just such a fan of those guys in particular. But it's cool to reach out to people and they know who you are. When I met Liana Kangas, I was at Heroes Con and I popped in and I was walking around and she just looks up and she goes, Robbie? And I was like, yo, what's up? She goes, you do these great, I had done a review on She Said Destroy. She remembered me. David Pepose was at that same show. He recognized me. So it was really cool to, like, meet these people, bring them on, have chats and develop friendships with them, bring them back. And we actually have some comic book creators lined up for episodes of Comics Revisited. So it's going to be really, really fun.
Oh, I can't wait. So you also have a Sunday Rockin' Robbie live show. And then how did that go all about? Because, like, that's where, like, I think most of the chat grows closer with you because it's just a pretty much chill out spot. You talk a little bit of news, you talk about what's to come, and you're pretty much just asking the chat questions all night. Like, I ask you, and it's just a fun chill out spot. That's how the PCP Army got created.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I love Rockin' Robbie Live. It's probably my favorite thing that I do. And it has turned into a monster. I'll say that, because if you look at the early days, back in the day, it was called Robbie Rants Live because my show was called Robbie Rants. And so I eventually got rid of that branding, but so then it turned to Rockin' Robbie Live. And the idea was to do what I did with my podcast and kind of have bits. At first, it was just me coming on. I was like, hey, you know what? I want to, like, live stream seem cool. Let me try to do a live stream. So we did one of our shows at the Huntsville Comic and Pop Culture Expo. We sold some mystery boxes. We took that money. We bought a webcam and we bought some other things. And I just started going live on Sunday nights. Sunday nights usually was a chill night. I don't work on Sundays and I can chill out. And then on Sunday night, do the show. And it would just be me. I'd be drinking a beer and I would just start talking. And then in those days, nobody would be there at first. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody would be there. Now it's great. I really love it because now there's so much already there. when I go live. But back in the day, there was nothing there. So to fill in the time, I started doing hey, what's coming up in shops this week? And I would just start reading it off my phone. Like, this is coming out, blah, 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 blah. And then eventually people would start trickling in. And I would always find that as an opportunity to do my show and tell and show things off, because I love that. Like, oh, look what I got. I got this. Isn't this cool? And if you notice, in the very, very first weekly pop culture wrap up had show and tell. The first few of those had show and tell. I always wanted to have show and tell be a part of anything like that. But eventually that developed a relationship with the community. It bonded the community together. Y'all developed y'all's relationships. Like, everybody, it's a tight-knit group, and it keeps growing, and that's great. And now this show has morphed into bit after bit after bit after bit, to the point where it dominates my Sunday now. So it's one of my days off, and I love it. But occasionally I do have to step back for a week, because I put a lot of work into that show, and it winds up being more work than I realize sometimes. And I usually do it all on Sunday, and it kind of takes away from one of my off days, especially time to spend with my lady, and that's never good. So I'm trying to figure out a way to kind of balance it a little bit better, but I love it. I love having the segments. It feels like, Sirius is never going to give me my own show. Sci-Fi Channel or some network's never going to call me, or maybe not now, maybe eventually, but they're not calling me to do my own show however I want. So I was like, you know what? YouTube's a great way to do it. And I love my show, and I love doing it the way that I do it. And it's my show. No one can tell me what to do. Like, I get, if I want to talk low-key on low-key, I can do it. If I want to call something ridiculous, like Falcon and Winter Soldier through the eye of the beholder, and have this cheesy music and graphic come through, like, I can do that. It's my bit. I've always from an early age wanted to do something like the Tonight Show, like some kind of late night show. And to me, that's my version of a weekly comic book late night show in a way. So, but I just do it by myself. But that is the most fun I have, regardless of how much work it takes. And I love it. I love it so much. So I'm glad to see that people like it. I think, because we got the Comic Book Community Awards coming up, I think they missed the ball on something. There should have been a category for best live stream, right? Best weekly live stream. Because a lot of us have weekly live streams. I do 100%. As much as I love everybody's stuff, Jim Mint's got a great live stream. Jennifer from Comics Will Break Your Heart's got a good live stream. Every time Bueller goes live, it's amazing. Right? That said, I don't think anybody has a live stream as dope as I do. But I'm biased.
Well, I'd have to agree with you. Sunday night live stream is the bomb, and like Friday nights is always fun too. And when you're over on Dylan's horror stream, that's just fun all around.
Yeah, live streams are just great. I'll just say this. I wouldn't say I have the best, but I would say that I probably have the most involved. And I will probably say that I have the most ridiculous live stream each week. And nobody does it like I do, I think. So there you go. Like, I remember in the old days, I'd be like, oh man, I really got to go pee. And I would just go walk off camera to go pee. So then as I was the moment, I was like, maybe I should like put together like just a graphic, some kind of video with a song. Yeah, sure. And that's a way I can share some of my music. So I share a lot of my music, on Rocking Robbie Live at times too. So every bit has grown though. I'm like, what if I did a top 5 every week? What if I did a movie review every week? That's the new. Why did I decide to do that? I'll do a movie review every week. Why did I decide to do that? Well, I already do a movie review every week. Why I do 2 of them every week. Why am I doing a 3rd? But it's a fun little bit, that it's just, I love it. I love that show. I love the best part though is the interaction with y'all. That's why I always say this show is, we always have something planned, but this show is driven, fueled, if you will, by your questions, your thoughts, your comments, and concerns.
I love it. And like you said before, you don't do a lot of editing and stuff. I remember watching a live stream where you actually went live with your comic book review video, and you didn't miss a beat. Like, you didn't even look like you took a breath.
Yeah, it's probably because sometimes the reason why I do that sometimes is because it's going to be like, I'm going to work till like 1 o'clock in the morning and the video's not going to be up till like 4:30 in the morning or something like that. And it just, at that point, if it gets too much, like if it's a super strong week or if I didn't get to read anything early and it's just going to be too long, I'm like, I'll go live with it. And because for the most part, that's what I do, bruh. I sit here with the stack of comics and I go, all right, hey, everybody, welcome. Pick of the week is this, blah, 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 blah. Next book is blah, blah, blah. I just do it live because I don't like editing. Jim like edits. Like when I do the video with Jim, I can mess up occasionally and restart because he does this amazing job of editing that together. On my shit, nah. What is said is said, and like for real. Like, so that's why you'll see me jumble words, and I just learned to roll with it. You know what I'm saying? Just if you mess up a word, just poke some fun at it, maybe, whatever, and then just move on. Just keep it going, get it all done in one take. And the YouTubers that I was watching back in like 2010 to 12 to 13, a lot of them did stuff like that too, just in one take. And if you notice on the weekly comic book review, I'm standing.
All right.
Like I get all that energy.
The end here. Sorry, I'm cutting up a little bit. Sorry for cutting you off. We're coming close to the end here. I just want to ask you, what is like some of your top, like over the last 10 years, what are your top 10 kind of unrecognized, unloved, kind of undervalued comic in your opinion?
Top 10 of the last 10 years? Whew. Okay. Wasted Space. That's one for sure. Wasted Space. When you said underappreciated, you threw me off. Wasted Space is probably the first one I would say, because there's a lot of good stuff that is appreciated, like East to West. That's appreciated. Underappreciated. Okay, I got Wasted Space. Let's say the Magnus run by Kyle Higgins from Dynamite. That's a really good one. What else we got? Let's say Hawkeye by Kate Bishop. It gets some cult love, but it doesn't get the Kate Bishop Hawkeye run by Kelly Thompson. That doesn't get near as much love. The Power Man Iron Fist run by David F. Walker is fantastic. Where else we going? What else we doing here? Last 10 years. So that would go back to 2011. How about Five Ghosts? A really great Image book, too short-lived. That gives me 5. So I got 5 more. Let's do it. 5 more. Let's see. I honestly think that Azzarello's Wonder Woman run is the best Wonder Woman run. So I think that technically makes that underappreciated. I don't hear enough love for Zack. I hear a lot of stuff about Scott Snyder and Batman and other things, but not enough about his Swamp Thing run, which is really, really good. This is just off the dome. So this is just off the dome. If I probably really thought about this, I'd probably come up with some gems that would be like, whoa, wow, you're right. I'm trying to look around. I think Little Bird's got enough love. Locking Mind Management by Matt Kent hasn't gotten enough love. Let's see. Regardless of what you think about Brian Wood, The Massive is a really, really freaking good book. And for the number 10, I'll go outside of the last 10 years and just say that not enough people have read or are reading or talking about Mike Allred's Madman. There you go. How about that? Is that good enough?
That was perfect, man.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you so much for doing this. I had a little bit of technical difficulties throughout the show, and I apologize for that. But like, it was an honor to be sitting down with you, and it's been a blessing.
Bro, anytime, man. I love hanging out and chatting. It's one of my favorite things to do is go live and just babble on. And I really like you, Travis. You're super cool, dude. You're doing good work here with the Bad Batch, and I appreciate you and everything that you've done in support of the channel. And I know that this is not releasing on your birthday, but it is your birthday right now. So happy birthday, my man. Thank you for everything. We love you, and you got an exciting package coming to you.
Oh, thank you so much. And guys, like, if you want, I don't know why you're not already subscribed to him, but the link to his channel is down below, as well as his Instagram. And there's also Pop Culture Philosophers Facebook page that you can join up that'll also be down there. And while you're there, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe now. And as Big Herm Collectibles likes to say, ding, 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 that notification bell for future videos. This is the second stop on Whiplash Wednesdays. Before this show was hashtag Blame Fable on Instagram, where him and I bring on people from the community and show off to kind of do a big, huge show and tell. Then after this video, it's Nick Comic Culture, always dropping amazing comic haul videos. Then after that, jump on over to Big Herm Collectibles and Sam's Tangled Web, where they're going to be talking about Image in the 90s. And then after that, tomorrow, with Brandon from Comics Kings, we'll be ending the night with What Are You Reading? Where they'll be talking about comics, literature, manga, what have you. And it's always a fun ride over on tomorrow's cinema show. And he'll be ending Whiplash Wednesdays, always. So guys, thank you for stopping by. Station to Rocking Robbie. It was just such a pleasure. And guys, we do have a sponsor for Whiplash Wednesdays now. That's right, Bacon Bacon. We feed bacon to a pig, and then we feed it to you. Bacon squared. Disclaimer, it does not contain children. Bye, everyone.
Interesting.